such, but what you can say is your bicuspid valve is called as bicuspid because it has two flaps, right? You can see that there are two flaps that open and close. Because there are two flaps that open and close, we call them as bicuspid valve. Okay, and because here there are three flaps, we call them as tricuspid valve. Okay, you see these fibers aroaround here, they're called as Purkinje fibers, and they basically just help your heart open and close the valves very essentially and very easily. Okay, now if you look at your respiratory system being added into all of this, okay, you can see that the supply to your entire body is coming like this. It is going to move. Okay, can you see this red tube that is coming from here? And then you can also see from the back. Just give me a second. Going to open it from here. All right, can you see that there is a blood vessel that is coming here, which is going down, supplying the blood to your lowermost body parts, and then there is a blood vessel that is coming up and is supplying the blood to your upper body part. Can you make that distinction over here? There is a blood vessel coming down, there's a blood vessel going up. Okay, again, for your limbs, all of the deoxygenated blood is also collected in the same way. There's a huge blood vessel that is coming from down and going upward. Okay, now these are your circulatory and respiratory systems working in association with each other. Then we look at your urinogenital system. Okay, and what the urinogenital system is going to do is it is going to consist of these two parts called as kidneys, right? If you cut open a kidney, what you would see is that it is made up of these small pyramidal structures. Can you see these pyramidal structures over here? Is it visible?
They are called as
they're called as medulla or medullary pyramids, right? And the rest of the portion over here is called as the cortex. This is the tube that is going to collect the urine, which is going to be made into these kidneys. Okay, and then these tubes, can you tell me what these tubes are called as? Have you heard of these tubes before?
Ureter.
Ureters, right? Where do the ureters lead? Where do your ureters go?
Urinary bladder.
They go to the urinary bladder, right? And then the urinary bladder is basically going to take in all of the urine, and it is going to store the urine inside till the process of micturition. Okay, remember the word that I'm saying, micturition. micturation, the process of micturition. Mastication and micturition are different. Do not write the process of micturition in mouth. Micturition is basically where you get an urge to pee. Okay, the entire pee that you are going to make is going to be stored inside your urinary bladder. Okay, and then once you have made all of this pee and the process of micturition has been initiated by your hormones, okay, it is going to be eliminated outside. Okay, now this is all that we have to see when it comes to the systems or the organ systems. Now we are going to stop the screen share from here. We are going to start it on a different screen, and we are going to look at this.
Mom, the last one, what was the process called?
Micturition. I'm going to write it down over here for you.
Mom, the entire urinary this thing.
Excretion. This is the metabolic, liquid metabolic waste that has been thrown out. Okay, so I'm going to write micturition. Okay. Now, the next thing that was on our agenda to understand is exactly how your plants are going to do this process. Now, obviously, we don't have a model of a plant just, making all of the urine and throwing it out of your body. So let's consider that you have a plant over here. Are you understanding anything that I'm talking about, or am I just blurting out nonsense? Do I make sense when I speak?
We are understanding.
Pakka. If I ask you a question all of a sudden, you'll be able to answer it?
Ma'am, just I did not understand what is micturition.
Micturition is when your brain is going to give orders to you to pee, right? There's you must have seen that sometimes you're just sitting somewhere and you feel like, oh my God, I have to pee. That is the process of maturation where your body feels like it has to pee. Okay, you understand what I'm talking about? Pee,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Pee is urination.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is basically what we are talking about. I know it's weird to talk about peeing in a class so many times and then not actually going to pee, but just hold it in for some time. Okay, now we're going to talk about how your plants are going to pee and poo. Plants definitely do that. Okay, plants definitely go ahead, they pee and they also poo, and as weird as it is, they also fart and they inhale those parts. I'll just come to that part. Okay, so now you all know that plants are going to take in carbon dioxide. Do you agree with this part? Do you all agree that your plants are going to take in carbon dioxide?
Yes, ma'am.
Here, anyone who thinks like, oh no, this is all nonsense, plants don't do that. No one, right? Do you also agree that your plants give out oxygen? Is there anyone who thinks this is nonsense?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone agrees to this? Okay. Now, while your plants are able to carry out this gaseous exchange, okay, I'm going to write over here, while your plants are able to carry out this gaseous exchange, they also take in ample amount of water from the ground and they move this water upward. Okay, now last year you might have studied about some of these processes. Okay, one of the organ systems or one of the structures that you might have studied about was your vascular bundle. Have you heard of this term before?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So what is a vascular bundle? Vascular bundle is kind of a complex tissue present in the plants, which is made up of two components. There is a xylem and there is a phloem. People who have studied last year with me, we have done this part in a lot of detail. Okay, we saw that there is a xylem, there is a phloem, and it has 4 different subunits. Okay, these different subunits are going to move the material up and down in the body of the plant. Okay, where your xylem is the tissue which is responsible for sucking the water from the bottom, that is from the ground, like a straw. It is going to take the water up and it is going to move it to the topmost shoot of the plant. But once the water has moved, it needs to go somewhere, right? So that the plant can absorb more water. So in order to move this water upward continuously, what your leaves do is, okay, so we are just going to look at one leaf over here. Let me just magnify this one leaf here. Okay, so we have this leaf, okay, and what this leaf is going to do is, with all of these tiny vessels that it has, it is going to bring in that drop of water like this, and wherever it is not required, so this water is bringing some amount of nutrients and materials with it. Okay, and once those nutrients and extra material has been used up by your leaf, this water, okay, this water is going to come out of your leaf. Okay, and then this water is essentially lost to the environment, and this process is called as transpiration. This is also the way that you can think your plants are sweating. Sweating is a form of excretion. When humans sweat, we say that we are excreting unwanted materials through our skin. Sweating is good for you. Okay, so plants also go on sweating, and that their sweating is not called as sweating, because then it would be very confusing if you say plants are sweating. So we don't want all of that confusion, and because biologists are so fancy, they need to come up with new terms. So transpiration. I spoke a lot of things in one sentence. Okay, so there's going to be transpiration. Now, once the process of transpiration has taken place, the plants still need to pee. Okay, so now whenever this material is going from the bottom, all of these minerals and nutrients from the water, when they go up, okay, remember, from the bottom, they're going up. They are ascending in the body of the plant. Do you know ascending and descending numbers?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Ascending means you go from the lower one to the top one. Descending is you go from the lower downward. Okay, you from the higher number you come down. 10, 9, 8 is descending, and 1, 2, 3, 4 is ascending. Okay, so whenever you say that something is going up, ascending. Okay, we are going to use the word ascent over here. Ascending is the verb form, the noun form is ascent. Okay, movement is the ascent over here. And all of the fluid which is present in the plant is called as a sap. Because the sap is moving up, we say there is something called as ascent of sap. Okay, once this material has come up, what is going to happen is some of the substances that the plant does not need, but they are already made inside the plant. Your leaves are making the food is moving downward, so there is descent of other materials. While these materials are coming down, if they get stuck into some of your phloem bundles, what is phloem responsible for? Phloem is responsible for movement of food, right? Now, because all of this food is also trying to move out at certain places, if it bulges and gets stored in excess quantity, okay, some of this food is going to ooze out like this in the form of gums. Okay, what is it going to ooze out in the form of? In the form of certain gums and raisins. Okay, not the resin that you use in the artwork. This is a different kind of resin. Now, if you have ever been in a family where there are women who are going to give birth, okay, like pregnant women, you might have seen your elders in the family making them these very weird kind of laddus, very sticky, weird laddus. Okay, these laddus are actually made up of the gum of certain plants, and they are said to be very, very good for you. Okay, this is called as dink. If you are from a Marathi family, go ask your mom what they are. You're not from a Marathi family, go to your friend who's Marathi and ask their mothers. Okay, I cannot explain this. I don't know that very well in detail. So you're going to have these materials oozing out of the plant where the plants are excreting out solid waste. When it comes to giving out water, they do that in the form of transpiration. Sometimes this water also is removed out of the leaf during the morning time. They are not released in the form of sweat. The water simply oozes out because it's no more needed by the plant. And the structure that is responsible for doing this, okay, the structure that is responsible for making your water come out of the leaves is your stomata. Okay, so there are these very different kinds of cells that are present here, and these cells are called as stomatas. This is making sense? Everyone is following till this part? Anyone who did not understand any part of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood?
Ma'am,
Understood?
so,
Yes.
ma'am, an example of the gums or resins can be amber, right?
It can be amber, yes, but amber is called as amber after it crystallizes for a long period of time. A simple example of this gum coming out could be your rubber. Okay, the white rubbery material that actually is made into rubber is an oozing out material. So what they do is they kind of take the rubber plant, okay, and they make a siphon into it like this. They poke the rubber plant and then they collect this rubber into a bowl. Okay, so a more easier example that everyone might be able to remember. Okay, so this is basically what your plants are
So
going
what
to
is it
do.
called?
Sorry,
Ma'am, what is that gummy thing called?
it's called as the sap. It is the sap which
Okay.
is essentially oozing out of your plant. Okay, what was the other point that I had to discuss? I kind of lost track of the other point.
Ma'am, hemodialysis.
Hemodialysis, yes, exactly. Let me just save this part. Okay, now let's say I have these kidneys. Obviously I have kidneys. Let's not say that I do. Okay, so I have these kidneys here with me. Okay, and because, well, I'm pretty sure you've seen in all of the classes I drink a lot of coffee. Okay, and I also happen to not go for, like, urination for longer periods because I have 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour classes. What happens is most of the times, okay, your kidneys don't really do the function that they are meant to do, which is kind of clean up your blood, right? That is essentially what your kidneys do. Your kidneys are like water purification system of your body. And if you do not take care of them, these kidneys tend to fail. And when that happens, okay, not just kidneys, even your lovely beloved liver, okay, somewhere here, I'm just gonna draw it here because I need the space. Okay, even your liver for that matter, if you do not take care of all of the products that you put inside your body, both these organs are essentially going to fail. What do you mean by they're going to fail? Are they giving an exam, blood test like an exam for these organs, and if they don't?
They would not function properly.
Yes, exactly. When I say that there is going to be organ failure, what I mean is these organs are not going to be functioning properly. When these organs are not functioning properly, the blood is not going to be purified. If the blood is not going to
It
be
gets contaminated.
sorry,
It gets contaminated.
gets contaminated. It has all of the toxins which your liver and your kidney were essentially throwing out of your body. Now they are both like, nope, I'm not going to do this. I did this for a long time and you were a very ungrateful person. I'm not going to do this again. Okay, because they give up. What happens is all of the toxins in your body just keep on getting accumulated, and they could give you a fatal attack and you might die. Now, no one wants that, right? In the earlier days, people would just be like, oh, now what to do? My kidneys have failed. I'm going to die. And they just died. But now we don't do that. Okay? Like we don't accept death that easily. So what we do is we take a person to the hospital, we put a tube inside them, okay, and we remove the blood. Okay, not all of it. We don't want to kill the person. We remove blood part by part. Okay, then you take this blood and you put it through a machine. These machines do essentially the same thing that your very good functioning kidneys at one time were doing, which is remove all of the toxins and put the blood back in your body. Okay, you have kidney.
Ma'am,
Yes,
where do they take the blood from? Like from in the part?
the venous circulation from the blood vessel that is the thickest, so that more blood can be drawn. Okay, and you're not cutting the supply of the pure blood that is going into your body, into your heart. You don't want to do that. Yes,
So from the hand.
from the hand, leg, depends. Some people if they have very fragile bodies, then they might want to take it through the leg also. Just depends on the condition of the person who is undergoing hemodialysis. Yes, sir, you were saying something, Aditya. My God, your name is Aditya Narayan. Okay, tell me.
Ma'am, it was not me.
It wasn't you. Okay, who was saying ma'am? Someone said ma'am to me. Now I know that's my name, but you gotta tell me who was talking to me. One of the boys.
Ma'am, it was the second Aditya.
It was the second Aditya. Who is the second Aditya? Where is the second Aditya?
Ma'am, actually, in our class, there are
Two Adityas, but I don't see a second Aditya. I just see one. Oh, it is not Aditya Narayan. It is Aditya Narayan. Okay. I thought like I have a famous personality in my class. I try to modulate my voice to sound better, you know. Okay, never mind. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to take this person to the hospital. Do not try to do all of this nonsense at home. We take this person to the hospital, then a person who is certified to do this takes out their blood, puts it into this hemodialysis machine. The blood gets cleaned up. Okay, all of the toxins are removed and the blood is put back in. Not through the same place. Different. Okay, the blood goes back into your body, circulates inside your body, and the toxins are removed. This process has to be repeated 15 to 45 days ke period mein. If your kidneys are like completely gone, 15 days. If they're functioning properly, one of the kidneys functioning properly, the other one is like just holding by 45 days. But between this particular period, the hemodialysis has to be carried out. Do I make sense? Anyone here who understood 10% of what I spoke?
Ma'am, it has to be carried out. Do transplantation, right?
Sorry?
Ma'am, we can like get a donor and transplant the kidney. Right?
Yes, it is much more easier to do, but much more risky. as well, because this is an entire organ inside your body. What if the donor's organ is not compatible with yours? You will have something which is called as organ failure or organ rejection. Both of these are very, very bad, because now essentially not only your body is fighting against something you have, it is also fighting against that entire organ. It is attacking that organ. That organ will become useless for anyone else as well. So you don't want to risk all of that. Okay, some people prefer doing this because it's like better than getting all of the incisions onto your body. Personal preferences. You want a new kidney, go get a new kidney. Getting a kidney is not as easy as getting an iPhone. So, like you might want to dabble and choose what suits the needs of the person. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Can we go to the brain?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I just had a doubt regarding the circulatory system. What
Yes,
happens to the blood after the pulmonary atrium?
after the pulmonary,
Ma'am, where does it go after the pulmonary atrium?
there's pulmonary artery, you mean? I'm just going to take this part. Okay. So I'm going to show you a very, very easy path of what is happening. Heart. No, I know not the most aesthetic heart, but heart right now with 4 chambers. Okay. Let's call this a lung. Let's call this a lung. Okay. And let's say this is the body. Okay. Essentially what we have right now. Let's say from the body, okay, all of the blood, which obviously is deoxygenated, is coming in one part. Okay, I'm just drawing a representation. We'll put the names of the each and every structure properly again. So blood is coming from the body, deoxygenated and going in one of the chambers of your heart. It comes down here, and then from here is pumped into your lungs. Making sense? Not down, up and into
Yes,
your
ma'am.
lungs. From up and into your lungs, it comes out again and comes in one of the upper chambers of your heart. This way. Okay. From here, so you must be able to see 2 pipes that come merged together and come into your atrium. From here, then the blood moves down into this ventricle. And from this ventricle, then this blood is sent to your body parts. This system is clear. Did you understand exactly what I just did here? And then once
Yes,
it goes
ma'am.
into your body, it gets deoxygenated and comes back to your heart. So if I was
Ma'am,
to
and what are the names of these chambers?
the names of these chambers, yes, who would like to help me with the naming of the chamber? Remember, this is getting oxygenated blood. This is getting deoxygenated blood. This is an atrium. This is a ventricle. This is a atrium. This is a ventricle. But is it left? Is it right? Who will help me with that?
Ma'am, for oxygenated, it is left atrium and left ventricle, and for deoxygenated, it is right atrium and right ventricle.
Just because I drew them or because you know them?
Ma'am, I know it.
So this is left and this is right. This is left and this is right. Is there anyone who has an objection to this? You can look up, you have entire Google at your disposal. You know that, right? You can just look it up and say that it is correct, it is wrong, whatever you feel like. Is this correct? Is this wrong?
Ma'am, it is correct.
It is correct. So this I give you, sir, the circulatory system with the organs and exactly what is happening inside your body. Make sense? Cannot make it any more easier.
Yes, ma'am.
You just have to look at the heart over and over again. You just have to learn how to draw this part. Okay, so this is, my dears, what we have to do about your life processes. Now let's talk about that one particular organ who is just, responsible for all of this falana dimkana. So I'm just gonna stop the sharing here. And we are going to look at the organ which is responsible for that. Which organ am I talking about again?
The brain.
The
Brain.
Yes. In symphony, you all said that. I'm so happy. Can you try doing that more? Like speak together, but not like nonsense together. Speak valid things together. Okay, so let's look at our nervous system. Don't get scared. Don't be scared. And here you are, your nervous system. Okay, what is this organ? This weird looking organ over here.
The brain.
Ma'am, it is
That's,
brain.
that's the brain. What can you say by looking at this? What can you say about the brain?
It looks like a walnut.
It looks like a walnut. Amazing. What else? Not having walnuts for a long time now. Thank you for that. What else? Come on, you're literally looking at the brain. What does it
has
look
a
like?
lot of holes. It has
Sorry?
a lot of holes.
It has a
A
lot
lot
of
of
holes. Those are not really holes, ridges, but okay. Does it look
folds.
like it's made up of tube? Does it look like it's a big tube just folded?
Ma'am, tubular structures.
Yes,
Kind of.
your brain is a tube. You're controlled by a tube. What kind of people are you? Okay, so you have this tube which is basically folded and put inside this space which is called as your cranium. What else do you see over here? Something very peculiar is happening with your brain.
Divided into hemispheres.
Ma'am, it is divided.
Yes, exactly. Your brain is divided into two hemispheres. Again, a left and a right. Which one would be your left and which one would be your right? This part has to be your right. This part has to be your left. Just the opposite of how
Yes,
you're saying right now. Okay. What are these other yellow things? Is that pee moving through my body? What is this yellow thing over here?
Ma'am, those are nerves.
Those are nerves. Okay. And what are they doing here in my body?
Sending signals.
Ma'am, sending the nerve impulses and signals.
Yes, so they are basically responsible for sending all of the signals from my brain to the entire part of my body. Just like your brain is kept inside this thick cavity called as my skull, your nerves, if you can see, are very nicely placed into this bony structure which is called as your spinal cord. If you paid attention last year in the topic called as classification, you would have learned that we are vertebral column containing organisms. We are also called as vertebrates. The reason we are called as vertebrates is because of this structure which is called as vertebra. One singular part like this is called as a vertebra, and we happen to have many of them. How many in number precisely? Do you know how many vertebrae you have?
33, I guess.
You can't guess. Tell me how many. I say there are 20, give or take. How many do you think we have? Again, Google at your disposal. Just tell me the answer. You don't have to wait so long. What is this bone kind of a thing over here at the bottom?
It is 33.
33. Okay. So these are the lowermost parts of your vertebrae that are just fused together. And do you see how thick your nerves are getting at this part? This is because they're supporting your leg muscles. Okay. So you can see your brain is a tiny structure, but it has its extensions all throughout your body. Okay, your brain is going to be able to control all of the parts of your body, and it does that via a very simple process called as nerve impulse or conduction of electrical impulses. You literally work on electricity. In case I forgot to mention this part to you in our last session, which I usually don't, but let's assume that I forgot. So your heart is going to have the specialized group of cells. Okay, there's like the specialized group of cells which is called as your pacemaker, and this pacemaker basically makes a lot of electricity. This electricity goes from your atrium into your ventricles, and that is essentially what makes your heart beat and stop beating. Your heart, unlike everything else in your body, is not controlled by your brain. Okay, so no matter what people might have told you, your brain and your heart don't work together. Okay, your brain is going to send nerve impulses to the entire part of your body except directly to your heart. Your heart is going to make its own rhythm, and this is also why your heart is called as I was expecting someone to finish my sentence. And that is exactly why your heart is called as. Come on. What is?
Can you repeat?
Because your brain does not directly send nerve impulses to your heart. The heart generates its own beat. And that is why your heart is called as. Find it out and complete it. Now it's lost its charm. Okay, so now you can see that your brain is going to be able to send the nerve. Sorry, yes.
A doubt. So, why is it that when we get scared or nervous, our heartbeats start to increase a lot? Like you
Yes,
said, our brain
because
doesn't control that.
exactly. So like I said, your brain does not directly send nerve impulses to your heart, but what it does send is through the small system. Do you see the small system that I just added into your model? Can you see these small tiny organs that just came up?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
this up over your cochlea, this is your ear part. Okay, this is where your ear is, right over here, upside. Okay, here you have an organ that generates certain hormones. These hormones will go to your heart, okay, and they will influence the amount of times your heart is going to beat. I did not say control, I use the word influence. If you have excess amount of testosterone or adrenaline in your system, which essentially your brain has released, then it will influence your heart to beat faster. If there is lower amount of testosterone in your body, your heart is going to beat slower. Okay, is this making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I cannot just leave sentences incomplete like that. Okay, so because your brain does not control your heart and your heart kind of beats all by itself and generates its own rhythm, your heart is also called as myogenic. The word I was looking for was myogenic. Okay, you were supposed to say that word. Myogenic means a organ which is able to generate its own contraction and relaxation without taking any feedback to beat from the brain. Okay, it just kind of does that all by itself. Making sense? Now this particular brain, again, because we like cutting into things, if we remove it, what do you think we are going to see? Yes, if I cut my brain, what do you think I will see inside? I'm not able to do that right now, but what do you think I'll
Ma'am,
be?
a lot of nerves.
A lot of nerves. All right, oopsies. Yeah, so right now here, can you see that these are small blood vessels over here? Your entire blood, your entire brain has a lot of blood supply. And you might be shocked to know this, but your brain feeds excessively on the glucose that you consume. Okay, if you were on a stranded island, okay, and you were not eating anything for a long time, and you know that your body needed glucose, the entire body would need glucose, but your brain would be like, yeah, but I need it more. So your brain would cut off the supply of glucose to all your body parts and just suck up all of the glucose to itself. It's a very selfish organ. Okay, so this is going to be your brain, and if you go inside your brain just enough, okay, you would be able to see that there is a very small connection, okay, which basically what it does is, just give me a second, we're just going to come to this part. Yes, like this. Okay, do you see this hollow space over here? Is it visible to you? Everyone is able to see this hollow space?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? This hollow space.
Ma'am, what is Alzheimer's?
What is Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's is basically where you forget all the things. Okay, like you're talking about something, like I'm talking about brain right now, and then I just kind of end my sentence, and that is why Avengers died. You would say I have Alzheimer's. Okay, so this is the part of your brain basically, okay, where there are connections made with the both parts. Okay, so right now I have this one part of my brain here and one part of my brain here. Okay, in the middle, like this, there is an organ, okay, which is a butterfly shaped organ. And what it does is it basically carries the process of crossing over of my brain. Okay, which is exactly why, as weird as it sounds, your left side of the brain controls the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body. Did you all know that? Was that interesting? I don't know. I think everyone knew that. You knew that already.
Yes, ma'am.
Why couldn't you tell me that yourself when I was showing you the brain?
Ma'am, but what's inside that hollow space?
There is a organ called as corpus callosum. That is the butterfly shaped organ that controls the crossing over of your brain. If I am going to, I don't know how I can zoom into this part more clearly. Okay, let us try to do that. Let's go inside the head of this individual. Do you see this small thing over here? Can you see this very tiny
Yes, ma'am.
peanut-like structure?
Medulla.
Is that medulla or is that something else? This is your pineal gland. Okay. You know what that is? That is essentially responsible for maintaining the temperature of your body. Okay, let us remove this part out. This one. Okay, this is going to kind of control how you are going to be in the environment. Okay, are you going to be like really hot? You not in the wrong sense. Okay, are you going to be like body temperature wise warmer or colder? Okay, then you can see all of these nerve joinings. Okay, this is where your spinal cord is going to begin. Okay, and okay, yes, now this is called, you might have heard this dialogue in some Hindi movie that yahan pe mat maro, yahan pe chota dimag hota hai. Have you heard of this dialogue? I don't know what movie it is from, but I
Yes,
know that there's a dialogue like that. Okay, this particular dialogue basically is there to tell you that this is the region where you have a smaller part of your brain. Okay, and the smaller part of your brain is basically there so that the other stuff, okay, like maybe saving some important information or maintaining your body temperature or just walking straight and all that non-essential things. Yeah, and I don't know if standing straight up is like your major priority, then all of that important stuff. If it is not your major priority, then all of the nonsense stuff like standing up and moving around and all those things, that is going to be controlled by your smaller part of the brain. Now, sir, who asked me what is in there, are you able to see this part here? Is this visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so can you read? No, not that is not very important. Can you read this part? This is called as the atrium of the lateral ventricle. It is essentially a part of your brain and it has a lot of connections. So you can see this part. Okay, this is the part that actually makes a connection with, what are these balls? What is it making connection?
Eyeball.
eyeballs, right? So this is the part of your brain that is essentially carrying out the function of you seeing, visualizing, speaking. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you something that you already may have known about your brain and never realized. Okay, what do you do when you want to think of something? Like you're like, I know this, but I just don't remember it. You do this, right? You're like, oh my God, I know this, I'm just not able to remember it. Does that happen with you? Do you ever rub your head over here like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that is because this region, okay, the frontal part of your brain is responsible for processing information that is more valid for your day-to-day life. Okay, like for example, what is the name of that person, I see every day in the society? Like, what is his name? I don't remember. If you rub here, you increase the circulation and you might have better chances of remembering things. Your brain already knew that about itself. You did not know that about your brain because we're pretty dumb sometimes. Okay. Then if you want to, make excuses and you want to get out of things and you're like, just, I don't know, this is very uncomfortable for me, you might rub the backside of your brain a lot, right? That is where this particular part of your brain is located, which is going to help you think of better things. Okay, make up excuses and maybe make up a better sentence in your mind so that you can speak it out. Okay, this small structure that you see over here, this blue structure, this is called as cochlea, and this is going to be present in each one of your inner ear. And this is the only part, okay, remember, this is the only part that is responsible for you to hear the things properly. Okay, this part is going to have, so I'm just gonna come over here. Okay, this part is going to contain very, very tiny stones. Okay, they're like small pebbles, and when you do this and when you do that and when you move your head like this, all those pebbles move into different locations and they keep you upright. People who do not have this process naturally occurring suffer from something called as vertigo. They're not able to stand straight. So your brain is essentially doing so many things. Do you see this small portion over here? Is this small portion visible to you, this grayish thing? Can
Yes,
you tell me what that gray thing could be? It is coming all the way from here and ending till here, this part. Can you think of what it could be? Yes, it's okay if you get it wrong, but I need you to think of what it could be. You can obviously have your Google open in front of you and try to find out information. I actually really appreciate if students make proper use of the resources that have. If you have Google and you use it quickly to come up with answers, I really like that. Okay, so just go ahead, find out what it could be and tell me. So this is what your brain looks like from inside. This is your thalamus. Okay, now when we talk about your endocrine system, which is somewhere down the syllabus, okay, when we talk about the endocrine system, I'm going to tell you that this thalamus is basically the organ that is responsible for making all of your hormones work properly. Okay, this is also responsible for the process of osmoregulation, the controlling of salt and water balance inside your body. Okay, so all of these processes directly or indirectly are carried out by your body, by your brain. Okay, and they are very, very essential. And if they are not carried out, you may not be able to function like a normal human being. Do I make sense? Is there anything out of all the nonsense that I just spoke that you understood? Listen to my question properly. I asked, is there anything out of the nonsense that I spoke for so long? Did you understand any of it?
Yes, ma'am.
You
yes,
understood?
ma'am.
Are you sure? So does any one of you have your textbook in front of you? Is there anyone who has their textbook with them?
Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Can you open the chapter and read it for me, please? Can you open the control and coordination chapter? Skip the first page. I need you to come to the second page where the important part starts and start reading from it, please. Yes, will you do
Ma'am,
that?
from animal's nervous system, that one.
Yes, yes.
In animals, such control and coordination are provided by nervous and muscular tissues, which we have studied in class 9. Touching a hot object in an urgent and dangerous situation for us, we need to detect it and respond to it. How do we detect that we are touching a hot object? All information from our environment is detected by the specialized tips of some nerve cells. These receptors are usually located in our sense organs such as the inner ear, the nose, the tongue, and so on. So, gustatory receptors will detect taste, while olfactory receptors will detect smell.
Yes,
This
just give me 1 second,
information,
okay? Just give me 1 second, darling. So all of these receptors, okay, are nothing but those parts of your body, okay, which are going to take the signals from somewhere. Right now, I happen to be the donor and you happen to be the receptor. I have all of this information here. What I'm doing is I'm giving it to you. Okay, so I'm taking it and I'm like, bhai, le lo. Okay, so you become the receptor. All of those parts who are going to get different kinds of information. Some of you might be just looking at the brain over here, so you are getting more visual information. Some of you might not even be looking at what I have on my screen. You might be just looking somewhere else, so you're getting all of the auditory material from here. Okay, some of you might be doing something else, so you might be getting different kinds of signals. Maybe some of you are sitting right next to your kitchen and your mom has cooked like delicious food, so you're getting all of the smell of the food and you're like all out of this particular class, so you're getting different signals or stimuli. Okay, all of these stimuli are received by your body on different parts, right? You don't smell by your hand. That would be really, really weird if you just like, nice coffee. You don't do that, right? You put the coffee here, so you're like, ah, nice smell. Or imagine if you just started seeing by your elbow, like if you wanted to look at something, you'd be like, oh wait, let me like just zoom into it. We don't do that. There are certain receptors that help us do these things. Okay, so when you taste something, what is that reception called as tasting something? Do you know? If I taste something, what kind of reception is it?
Gustatory.
Pakka. Why are you so quiet?
yes,
If you're sure of it, just tell me loudly. What kind of reception is that? Is it gustatory or is it olfactory? Gustatory reception. Okay. Then you are going to be smelling something. It is called as olfactory reception because you smelled it. Okay. What if I see something? What kind of reception would that be? Yes. What if I see something? I'm able to visually see something. What kind of reception
Optic.
would it be? Optic reception. Very good. What if I'm able to sense something hot by my hands? What kind of reception does that become? Yeah. I'm able to sense something with my hand or with my skin. Then what does that become? Come on, think. Will you find that out for me? Will you spend some time on Google and find out what kind of sense is it
On
called?
somatosensory receptors.
Sorry?
Somatosensory receptors.
Exactly. Soma is body. Okay, skin or cells, and sensory is something that you sense with your body. Okay, so it's very easy to find all of this information on Google. Okay, it's just that you need to know exactly how to remember it. So I'm here to simplify all of that for you. Can we go ahead and just read? I'm just gonna take 2 to 3 more minutes and then we are gonna stop with this. Yes, darling, please read. Please continue.
yes, ma'am. This information acquired at the end of the dendritic tip of a nerve cell sets off a chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse. This impulse travels from the dendrite to the cell body and then along the axon to its end. At the end of the axon, the electrical impulse sets off the release of some chemicals. These
Hmm.
chemicals cross the gap or synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in a dendrite of the next neuron. This is a
Yes.
general scheme of how nervous impulses travel in the body.
All right, just give me 1 second. Okay, now what you see over here is called as a synapse. Okay, I'm going to take you to a part where this, okay, this entire region, do you see there are these bulbs on top over here like this, and then these two parts are in touch with each other? Like, for example, if I have this part here and my finger fits right between this gap, okay, this happens to be the terminal end of my neuron. What is a neuron? Neuron is the cell that makes up your entire brain. We saw the brain for so long. Your entire brain is made up of one kind of cell, which is called as neuron. It is a long, thin, filament like cell. Okay, that filament like cell has an end to it, and the end looks something like this. Okay, like a stamping pad, जिसको नीचे से there's like a surface which can go down and fit into the places. Okay, this is it. From here, what is going to happen is the chemical impulse is going to come down, and as soon as it comes at these spots, can you see that there is some impulse that is coming? These chemicals are coming in through these channels. Do you see there are these openings into your cell? Okay, these are all coming here, and can you see they're packed into smaller vacuole like things? Can you see that? Is this visible to you? This small vesicle. Okay, now what this is doing is the chemical impulse. Let's say I ate amazing food, like I ate a croissant right now. Okay, croissant, not croissant. I ate a croissant. Okay, and all of that amazing taste has gone inside my mouth. But how will my brain know? All of those chemicals come to the synaptical end of my nerve, and those impulses are converted into my electrical impulse, and then from that electrical impulse they travel all the way up, okay, into my nerve, and then from the nerve they go inside my brain, and then my brain analyzes those impulses, and that is how you are able to sense, okay, this is something that has happened to my body. Okay, so these are all the chemicals that your body is releasing out, your nerves are releasing out. Can you see how they are thrown out from different surfaces? Are you able to see these pores through which the chemicals
Yes,
are
ma'am.
thrown out? Okay, this is exactly how your impulses travel from one part to the other, and this junction where it happens is called as a synapse. Okay, the process and the junction is called as a synapse. This is a connection between one nerve to the other. Okay, one axon to one dendrite come and attach, and they share the information from electrical impulse converted into chemical impulse. Why are we doing all of this nonsense? Because electricity can't move through smaller gaps. There are these smaller gaps through which your electricity, do you see there's a gap over here? Right, this is one surface and this is another surface. Electricity can't move through that, so we take electricity, turn it into chemical back to electricity, and that is how this is going to move. While we are at the point, can you tell me what this green structure is? What is this green structure that you see here? Have you seen this before?
Mitochondria.
Mitochondria. We need to provide the cell with energy. Therefore, there is presence of mitochondria. Okay, this is exactly all that you need to know about a synapse. Can we stop here for the day, and can we continue back about your control and coordination later? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right. So this is where I stop my sharing. This